On Father's Day, my family gave me a handmade trophy that said, "Most likely to hold everyone back." They all laughed like it was the funniest joke they'd ever heard. My wife laughed the loudest. I just smiled, said thanks, and quietly cleaned up the kitchen while they watched TV. That night, once the house went silent and the dishwasher beeped its final cycle, I sat alone in the dark with that stupid cardboard trophy in my hands, reading the words over and over. I didn't say anything, but I felt something crack deep inside me. Something I had spent years holding together with patience, compromise, and a kind of love that always gave more than it received. That night, I didn't sleep. 2 weeks later, I was gone. And 2 weeks after that, my wife posted a desperate message on Facebook. "I regret every word I said. Please just come home." My name is Luke. I'm 38. I work as a maintenance supervisor for a local hospital. Not exactly a glamorous job, but I've always been proud of it. I fix things. I keep the place running. Most days I come home with grease under my nails and a sore back, but I've always been the kind of man who finds dignity in showing up every day and doing the work nobody else wants to do. I married young. My wife, Rachel, was the first girl I ever truly loved. We met in college. She was bright and ambitious, full of energy and ideas. I was quieter, more grounded. She said I balanced her out. I believed her. We've got 2 kids, Liam, 14, and Bella, 11. I love them more than anything. I was the kind of dad who sat through every piano recital, helped with every science project, and built elaborate pillow forts just to hear them laugh. I wasn't flashy, and I didn't always say the right thing, but I was always there. Maybe that was the problem. Being always there slowly became something invisible, expected, dismissed, and then resented. It wasn't always like that. Early in our marriage, Rachel and I were a team. We'd dream together, make plans, fight, make up, and push through tough months. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. She got a big promotion at her firm. Suddenly, she was bringing in twice what I made. I was proud of her, truly. I supported her through the late nights, the high-stress deadlines, the weekends spent networking. But the balance shifted in ways I didn't fully understand at the time. Slowly, subtly, I went from partner to background noise. I noticed the first change during one of her work parties. I was introduced as Luke. He works in maintenance. There was a slight pause before she said it, like she wasn't sure how to frame it. Then a quick chuckle, like she was covering for something. I smiled and nodded, shook hands, asked polite questions. But I saw it. The look. The way people's eyes shifted past me. I started hearing new jokes at home. "Well, you're the king of duct tape, right? We should get Dad to fix the economy. He's got a wrench for everything." All said with a smile, always in front of the kids. Liam would laugh, then Bella. Rachel would ruffle my hair like I was a golden retriever who'd fetched a stick. I laughed too. What else could I do? But jokes have a way of turning sharp when they're repeated too many times. What once sounded playful started to sting, especially when the kids began echoing it. Liam would roll his eyes when I gave advice. Bella would tell me to ask Mom. She actually knows things. At first, I chalked it up to the usual teenage stuff. But it got worse. More pointed. Rachel never corrected them. If anything, she seemed to encourage it. Then came the calendar. Rachel is big on planning. She keeps a color-coded family calendar on the fridge. One day I noticed something scribbled in red next to Father's Day. Barbecue plus gag gift. I asked her about it, and she just smirked. "It's a joke, relax." The kids thought it would be funny. I didn't press it. I should have. But after years of being told I read too much into things, I'd learned to stay quiet. Father's Day came. I grilled burgers in the backyard while Rachel lounged in a chair, scrolling through her phone. The kids ran around with water balloons, shouting and laughing. When it came time for presents, they handed me a box wrapped in newspaper. Inside was that handmade trophy, just a paper cup glued to a plastic base, with the words, "Most likely to hold everyone back," scribbled in marker. I stared at it, thinking I'd misread it. Then they burst out laughing. Rachel clapped. "It's a joke, babe. Don't be so sensitive." Liam added, "Well, you are kind of the reason we never go anywhere fun." Bella chimed in. "Yeah, Mom always says we can't travel because Dad's job won't give him time off." That hit me in the gut. I looked at Rachel, hoping she'd step in. Defend me. Say something. She just shrugged. "They're not wrong." Then she laughed again, louder than before, like the sound of my humiliation was music to her ears. I didn't say a word. just smiled, nodded, and muttered, "Thanks, guys." After dinner, I cleared the plates, wiped down the table, loaded the dishwasher, and swept the deck. Rachel went inside to watch TV with the kids. No one offered to help. No one said thank you. That night, once everyone was asleep, I sat in the garage for a long time. I held the trophy in my hands and thought about what it meant. What they thought of me. I wasn't angry. I was hollow. I realized I'd become the family joke. The man who held everyone back. The man who kept his head down, paid the bills, fixed the broken doorknobs, and got mocked for it. The next morning, I woke up early and went to work like usual. I didn't mention the trophy. I didn't bring it up again. But inside, something had shifted. I started paying attention in ways I hadn't before. Watching how Rachel spoke to me, how the kids mirrored her. I noticed how often I was talked over, dismissed, forgotten. I started making notes, little things, but they added up. Like when Rachel spent $200 on throw pillows but complained when I asked to buy new boots for work. Or when she canceled a weekend trip because Luke can't get time off, even though I'd never been asked. 2 weeks later, on a random Tuesday, I took a personal day. I didn't tell anyone. I spent the morning at the bank, then the storage unit, then a lawyer's office. I wasn't planning anything dramatic, at least, not yet. I just wanted to understand what I had, what I'd built, what I was owed, and most importantly, what they would miss if I disappeared. I didn't leave a note. I didn't make a scene. I just packed a single duffel bag, took the truck, and drove away. When I didn't come home that night, Rachel texted me once. "Where are you?" "No, are you okay?" "No, we're worried." "Just where are you?" I didn't reply. That weekend, she posted a smiling photo of the kids with the caption, "Just us three this time." Like I'd never existed. But I knew something she didn't. That silence has a weight. And mine was about to hit like a freight train. The first few days after I left were strangely peaceful. I stayed in a small cabin about an hour out from the city. A buddy of mine from work, Craig, had inherited the place from his uncle and barely used it. When I texted him asking if I could crash somewhere for a while, he just replied, "Keys are under the rock next to the woodpile. Stay as long as you need, man." The cabin was old and quiet, surrounded by pine trees and the low hum of crickets at night. No Wi-Fi, spotty signal. The kind of place where you had to chop wood for heat and make your own coffee on a rusted percolator. It was exactly what I needed. The first morning, I sat on the front steps with a cup of bitter coffee and just breathed. No alarms, no cold shoulders, no being spoken over at the breakfast table. Just the wind in the trees and the sound of my own thoughts. I didn't cry. I thought I would, but I didn't. I just felt drained. That first week, Rachel didn't call once. She texted me a couple of times. "You can't just leave like this. The kids are asking where you are." "Fine. Take your space. But we need to talk soon." There was no apology. No self-reflection. Just control dressed up as concern. I didn't answer. By the second week, her tone shifted. I guess the silence started getting to her. "I regret what we said." "Okay. It was a joke. Please come home." Still, I didn't answer. I wasn't being cruel. I was just done. At least with pretending that everything was fine. That's when she posted the Facebook status. "I regret every word I said. Please just come home." That one hit differently. Not because it was genuine, but because it was public. Rachel never aired personal things online. But this post? It was bait. I could see through it instantly. It wasn't about me. It was about the image. The comments poured in like clockwork. "You guys are the strongest couple I know. You'll get through this. Luke probably just needs some time. He's such a great dad. Let us know if you need anything. Hugs." I could practically hear her milking every "you poor thing" like it was gospel. That post wasn't an apology. It was damage control. But something else in the comments caught my eye. One of her co-workers, Jenna, had commented something that didn't sit right. "You were just venting. We've all said worse. You're still the same amazing woman who carried your whole family." Carried? It stuck in my head for days. Carried your family. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Something bigger than jokes and throw pillows. Something I had missed. So I made a plan. I drove back into town late at night, parked 2 blocks away from the house, and just watched. Lights were off. Porch was empty. My house, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. I didn't go in. I just sat there in the dark, thinking. The next morning, I stopped by my sister's house. Megan was 5 years younger than me, married with twin toddlers and a biting sense of humor. We hadn't talked much in the last couple of years, Rachel always said Megan was too intense and didn't want her around the kids too often. I had let that distance grow without realizing it. But when she opened the door and saw me, her face changed. "Holy crap, Luke. You look like a ghost." "Thanks," I muttered. "That good, huh?" She pulled me in and made coffee. It took about 20 minutes before I finally asked her, "Did Rachel ever say anything to you? About me? Like stuff I don't know?" Megan hesitated, stirred her coffee slowly, then sighed. "Luke, I didn't want to get in the middle of anything. But yeah, she said stuff." "Like what?" "Like you were dragging her down. That you never had ambition. That she had to pick up your slack for everything. I always thought it was just venting, but she made you sound like some dead weight she was carrying out of obligation." I clenched my jaw. "She said that to you?" "And more. She told Mom once that if she'd known what kind of life you'd settle into, she never would have stayed. That you were this safe choice she made before she really knew herself." I stared at the table. My stomach turned. She said I was the safe choice? Megan nodded. I didn't believe her. I still don't. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff she's been saying for years. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. All the little slights, the sarcastic comments, the dismissals, they weren't random. They were seeds, planted and nurtured behind my back for years. And now I was finally seeing the full garden. But I wasn't prepared for what came next. Megan poured another cup of coffee and hesitated. "There's something else. I wasn't going to say anything, but now I think you should know." She picked up her phone and tapped a few times, then slid it across the table. It was a screenshot. A Facebook post from Jenna, the same coworker who had commented about Rachel carrying the family. It had been posted a few weeks ago, then quickly deleted. "Girls trip with the best team ever. Sun, wine, and no dead weight to carry. Hashtag living our best lives." There was a picture. 5 women in a vineyard, holding glasses of wine. Rachel was front and center, arms slung around Jenna, both of them mid-laugh. "Dead weight," I repeated. Megan nodded. "I think she was talking about you." I left shortly after, but my head was spinning. I drove aimlessly for hours, trying to wrap my mind around what I'd learned. The image I had in my head, of Rachel, of our marriage, of the life I thought we'd built, was crumbling. And then came the betrayal I never saw coming. The next day, I finally called Liam. It went straight to voicemail. I left a message. Short, calm, just saying I missed him and hoped he was doing okay. No reply. I tried again the day after. Still nothing. On the 3rd day, Bella picked up. "Dad," she whispered. "Hey, sweetheart. I've been trying to reach you guys. Is everything okay?" There was a pause. "Mom said, we're not supposed to talk to you right now." "What? What?" "She said you're being dramatic. That you're punishing us to make her look bad." I felt my throat tighten. "That's not true. I just needed some space." "I know," Bella whispered. "I miss you. But she gets mad when we bring you up." My hands shook. "Bella, listen to me. You didn't do anything wrong. I love you." "Okay. I love you too," she said. "I have to go." The line went dead. That night, I sat on the cabin floor surrounded by old photographs I'd taken from a box in storage. Birthday parties, camping trips, Liam's first soccer game, Bella's toothless grin when she lost her front teeth. I'd been there for all of it. Every scraped knee, every school play, every late-night fever. And now my own children were being told I abandoned them. That was the breaking point. This wasn't just about me anymore. It wasn't just about a trophy or a Facebook post or being talked down to. Rachel had twisted everything, warped the truth until I was the villain in my own family's story. I realized then that walking away hadn't been enough. Silence had made a statement, but it hadn't protected the people I loved most. It was time to stop hiding in the woods. Time to show them exactly who they'd pushed away. And to make sure Rachel never had the chance to rewrite my story again. Rock bottom wasn't a dramatic crash for me. There was no shouting in the rain or breaking down in tears in front of a mirror. No whiskey bottle clutched in one hand and an old family photo in the other. It was quieter than that. It was the sound of my daughter's voice whispering. "She gets mad when we bring you up." It was the stillness of the cabin, too quiet even for the birds. It was realizing that my silence, my great, dignified withdrawal, had become a weapon in Rachel's hands. I thought leaving would make a statement, that the absence of my presence would make them all stop and think. But all it did was give Rachel a blank canvas to paint whatever story she wanted. And paint it she did. I'd become a ghost, a scapegoat, an empty seat at the dinner table she could point to and say, "See, I told you he couldn't handle things. I went days without eating properly. I'd start making eggs and forget to turn the burner on. I'd heat water for coffee, then realize 20 minutes later I'd never poured it. My clothes smelled like pine and would smoke. I barely recognized myself in the mirror. It wasn't just that I looked tired. I looked smaller, worn down from years of being second priority, of being loved conditionally, when I was useful, when I was silent, when I smiled through disrespect. The low point came one night when I drove into town on a whim and saw my family. They were leaving a restaurant. Rachel, Liam, Bella, and a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, fit, maybe mid-40s, holding Bella's hand and walking next to Rachel like he'd always been there. I parked across the street, frozen. Liam said something, and the man laughed. Rachel looked up at him with a smile I hadn't seen in years. Bella didn't even look around like she used to, scanning every face for mine. I didn't know what hurt more, seeing someone step into my place, or realizing how easily they'd made room for him. I drove away before they could see me. I pulled over 3 blocks down, killed the engine, and just sat there. My hands were clenched around the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I wasn't angry at them. Not really. I was angry at myself. For letting it get this far. For accepting scraps and calling it love. For fading into the background until even my kids stopped noticing when I wasn't there. I stayed in that car for almost an hour. Then, something in me shifted. I don't know what triggered it. Maybe it was the way Rachel looked at that stranger. Maybe it was the sudden realization that I didn't have to keep shrinking to make other people feel bigger. Or maybe it was just, finally enough. That night, I made a list. It wasn't long. 3 things. Rebuild. Reclaim. Remember who I am. That list became my North Star. The next morning, I cleaned the entire cabin. Top to bottom. Washed every dish. Swept every floor. Washed my clothes in the old sink. Hung them on a line. And let the wind do the rest. I took a long, hot shower and shaved for the first time in days. When I looked in the mirror this time, I saw something else. A man who'd been through hell and was finally walking out. Then I got to work. I called an old friend, Ray, from back in trade school. He owned a small contracting business now, did custom renovations and home repairs in the city. "Hey," I said when he picked up. "You still looking for hands?" "Always," he replied. "But I thought you were working full-time at the hospital?" I said. "Not anymore." There was a pause. "Everything okay?" "Not really," I said. "But it will be." Ray gave me some side work the next week. Fixing up a couple of rental properties for a property management company he contracted with. It was long, exhausting work, but it felt good. I was building something again. My hands were covered in sawdust and paint, not resentment. I worked in silence, let my thoughts settle. And at the end of each day, I felt tired, but not empty. A month later, I started picking up more jobs. Word got around that I was dependable, affordable, and didn't cut corners. A landlord asked if I'd ever thought about going out on my own. I hadn't, but maybe I should. I registered a small business. Hudson Handyman Services. Just a simple name, a cheap logo I made online, and a phone number. I didn't expect it to take off, but it did. By the end of the second month, I had a wait list. People liked that I showed up on time, explained things clearly, and didn't treat them like they were stupid. I fixed things they'd been told were unfixable by bigger companies. I started getting referrals. Small businesses, elderly clients, people who just wanted someone honest. And the money? It wasn't hospital money, but it wasn't bad either. More than enough to live on. More than enough to grow. But the biggest win wasn't the cash. It was the feeling that I wasn't just repairing sinks or patching drywall. I was repairing me. Every job was a brick in a new foundation. Every thank you, every satisfied client, every moment of self-reliance reminded me I had value. I had skills. I had worth that didn't depend on anyone's permission to exist. I kept my distance from Rachel. I didn't respond to her messages, though she sent them every few days. Liam's grades are slipping. He needs you. Bella won't stop asking where you are. This is ridiculous. You're punishing us all. Are you seriously starting a handyman business? That's your big plan. I didn't answer any of them. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally understood that caring didn't mean sacrificing myself. Then, something unexpected happened. I got a message from my old boss at the hospital, Mr. Chun. He asked if I could meet him for lunch. We met at a diner near the hospital. He shook my hand like he hadn't seen me in years, even though it had only been a couple of months. I just wanted to say, he began after the waitress poured our coffee. The place hasn't been the same without you. I shrugged. I'm sure they'll manage. He shook his head. Luke, I mean it. You kept that place running. And I'm not just talking about the pipes. You were dependable. Solid. People trusted you. I looked at him, skeptical. Didn't feel like that most days. He nodded slowly. Sometimes the quiet ones get overlooked. Doesn't mean they're not essential. Then he leaned forward. Listen, I know you're doing your own thing now, but if you ever want to come back, under better conditions, we'd make room for you. A leadership role, training the new techs, better pay. I smiled. It was a good offer, but I already knew my answer. Thanks, Mr. Chun. Really, but I think I'm right where I need to be. He nodded. Then let me give you something anyway. He slid a letter across the table. A reference, he said, in case you ever need to show someone what you're worth. That night, I framed it. Not because I needed it, but because it reminded me of something I'd forgotten. What I brought to the table had never been the problem. The problem was who I gave the table to. By the third month, I moved out of the cabin. Found a small rental on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, a one-bedroom with creaky floors and a view of a used car lot. But it was mine. I bought a second-hand toolbox and a white van with rust around the wheel wells. Slapped my logo on the side with magnets. I ordered online. I kept my head down. Worked hard. Paid my bills. And waited. Because I knew, eventually, Rachel would cross a line she couldn't walk back from. And when she did, I wouldn't just be ready. I'd be rebuilt. The first time I truly felt powerful again wasn't when I landed my biggest job yet, or when I finally hit my savings goal. It was when Bella called me from a friend's phone. She was whispering again, like she was afraid of being heard. Dad, I need to talk to you. Mom doesn't know I'm calling. I was driving back from a job, just finished patching up an old couple's kitchen ceiling that had nearly caved in after a slow leak rotted the joists. I pulled over instantly, heart thudding. Are you okay? I asked. There was a pause. I'm fine. But Liam's not. She hesitated. And Mom's different now. Worse. I kept my voice calm. What do you mean? She doesn't talk to us like she used to. She's always on her phone, or out. She's mad a lot. And that guy, the one who comes over, he's mean. Not to her, but to us. Liam got in trouble at school, and she told him he was turning into you. My grip on the wheel tightened. She said that. Bella sniffled. She said it like it was the worst thing ever. And Liam, he doesn't talk to her much anymore. Or me. He's always in his room. He misses you. I know he does. I swallowed the lump rising in my throat. Bella, sweetheart, thank you for telling me. I want you to know something, okay? Nothing that's happening is your fault. Or Liam's. I love you both. So much. And I'm working on something. Something important. What kind of something? A plan, I said. To make things right. I heard her exhale, like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. Okay, just hurry. She hung up before I could say more, probably afraid of being caught. That was the moment I knew. It was time. Not to lash out. Not to explode. That's not me. But to correct the narrative. To make it undeniably clear just who had been holding the family together all those years. And to do it in a way that couldn't be denied, twisted, or buried in Facebook status sympathy. I didn't want revenge that burned everything down. I wanted something smarter. Sharper. Something that would dismantle Rachel's version of the truth, brick by brick, until she was left standing in the rubble of her own lies, wondering how it had all slipped through her fingers. So I started preparing. The first thing I did was go back to the lawyer. Her name was Diane. Smart, composed, and utterly unshaken by drama. The kind of woman who could end someone's career and then ask you if you'd like a mint. You're ready to proceed? She asked, peering over her glasses. I nodded. Yes, but I don't want a messy public battle. I want leverage. Her eyebrow lifted just slightly. Leverage. Custody. At least partial. If not full. She tapped her pen on the desk, thinking. That'll depend on a few things. Proof of neglect, instability, inappropriate influence. Do you have documentation? I pulled out a folder I'd been slowly building. Screenshots of Rachel's social media posts. Her deleted comments, recovered through Megan's help. Voice recordings from Bella, with her knowledge and consent, describing the new guy Rachel had been seeing, how he treated them, and Rachel's increasing volatility. Notes from teachers that Liam had started slipping in school, his grades, his behavior, the way he shut down in class. And finally, a notarized letter from Mr. Chun, my former supervisor, detailing my character, work ethic, and the way I'd always prioritized my family even when it wasn't convenient. Diane read through it all silently, her eyes scanning every line. When she finished, she leaned back in her chair and smiled, just a little. "You've been busy." "I've been watching," I said. "And waiting." She nodded. "Good. Because with this and a few strategic moves, I think we can shift the entire conversation." We worked through every detail over the next 2 hours. Financial records, communication patterns, potential witnesses. I wasn't trying to drag Rachel through the mud, but I wasn't going to let her bury me under it, either. Next, I visited Megan. "I need a favor," I said. She was holding one of the twins, a squirmy little whirlwind of energy named Emma. "Anything," she said, "as long as it doesn't involve diapers. I need you to testify, if it comes to that. About what Rachel told you. The things she said about me." Megan nodded instantly. "Of course. And I need your help with Liam and Bella. I don't want to blindside them. I want them to know this isn't about tearing things apart. It's about fixing what's already broken." "I'll talk to them," she said. "Or at least try. Rachel's poisoned the well, but they still love you. It's obvious." I left with a hug and a new sense of momentum. But I wasn't done yet. The next part of my plan required something Rachel had never bothered to understand: community. For years, I'd quietly helped people. Fixed gutters for free. Replaced broken appliances for single moms. Tuned up heaters for retirees who lived on fixed incomes. I never asked for anything. Never advertised it. Now, I reached out. Not for sympathy. For statements. I sent emails and texts to a dozen people I'd helped over the years, explaining the situation in neutral terms and asking if they'd be willing to write a short character reference. Something honest. Something real. Within days, I had over 20 letters. One from a veteran who said I'd repaired his wheelchair ramp without charging him a dime. One from an elderly woman who said I'd been the only man who treated her with respect after her husband passed. One from a struggling mom of 3 who said I'd fixed her dryer at midnight because she couldn't afford to take her kids to the laundromat anymore. I compiled them all in a single PDF. Called it Who Luke Really Is. And then I waited. Because the final move in my plan wasn't legal. It was personal. Rachel was going to throw a party. A big one. I knew this because Bella told me in a text she sent through her friend's phone again. "Mom's hosting a starting over party," she wrote. "New guy is coming. Family, co-workers, everyone invited. She says she's announcing something." I knew Rachel. She was going to use this party to reframe the narrative one final time. To cement the idea that she had been the strong one, the survivor, the woman who rebuilt her life after being abandoned by a weak man. She wanted applause. Validation. I was going to give her the opposite. But not by storming in and shouting. By showing up, unapologetically myself, with the kind of quiet confidence she could never fake. And with the truth close behind. Megan and I started planning. I picked an outfit. Nothing fancy. Clean pressed. The kind of outfit that said, "I've been doing just fine without you." I asked Diane to prepare a letter, a preliminary custody filing. Not to serve at the party, I'm not that dramatic, but to hand-deliver afterward, with perfect timing. And I called one last person. Liam. I didn't expect him to answer. But he did. His voice was rough, like he'd just woken up. Or hadn't slept much at all. "Dad." "Yeah," I said carefully. "Hey, buddy." He didn't say anything for a long time. I was about to speak when he whispered, "Are you mad at us?" "No," I said immediately. "Never. I'm sorry if it felt that way. I needed time. But I never stopped loving you." He sniffed. "She said you left because you couldn't handle us." I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. "That's not true. I left because I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay when it wasn't. I thought it would protect you. I didn't realize it would make you feel abandoned. I didn't know what to think," he admitted. "But now I know she lies. A lot." I blinked hard. "What changed?" She told me her boyfriend was moving in. Didn't even ask me. Just said, "This is how it's going to be." I told her I wanted to live with you instead. She said you weren't stable. I took a breath. "I'm working on fixing that." "I want to come with you," he said. "I don't want to stay here anymore." I felt something in my chest finally uncoil. "Okay," I said. "Soon. But we have to do this right." I didn't go to the party to make a scene. I went to remind them who I am. I didn't walk into the party like a man on a mission. I walked in like a man who had nothing to prove. The sun was just starting to dip behind the houses as I pulled up. Rachel's parents' backyard was lit with string lights and choked with the sound of polite laughter, clinking glasses, and the kind of hollow small talk people make when they're trying to convince themselves everything is fine. I parked at the curb and killed the engine. Rachel didn't know I was coming. She'd invited everyone else, her coworkers, her extended family, her polished new boyfriend who looked like he came straight from a divorcee dating app ad. But not me. That was intentional. She was rewriting history tonight, officially. I was the footnote in her story of reinvention. Only, I had a different ending in mind. As I walked through the gate, a few heads turned. Some of her friends paused mid-drink. A woman from her firm, who'd once told me at a holiday party that I had kind eyes for a blue-collar guy, visibly stiffened. And Rachel? She froze. Her wine glass tilted just slightly. Her smile tightened. Her eyes flicked from me to her new man, then to the guests, like she wasn't sure how to spin my presence yet. I gave her a small nod. Nothing aggressive. Just enough to let her know I wasn't here to beg, cry, or start something messy. "Luke," she said, walking up to me with her arms awkwardly out like she was about to hug me, but changed her mind halfway through. "I wasn't expecting." "I know," I said. Didn't want to ruin the surprise. She tried to laugh. "This is a private event." "For what?" "You're rebranding." I asked, my voice quiet. "Calm. Is this the part where you announce you're a victim of circumstance and now you're rising from the ashes?" Her jaw tightened, but she plastered on a smile. "Now's not the time." I nodded. "You're right. It's not the time for lies." I walked past her before she could respond. Heads were turning everywhere now. I saw Bella first, curled up on a patio chair with her arms folded, headphones in, the very picture of "I don't want to be here." When she spotted me, her whole body lit up. She jumped off the chair and ran to me, nearly knocking over a potted plant. "Dad." I knelt down to hug her. "Hey, sweetheart. Why are you here?" she whispered. "Did Megan tell you about the party?" I smiled. "You did." She beamed. "Is Liam with you?" "Not yet," I said. "But he's close." Rachel appeared behind her, practically vibrating with tension. "We're not doing this here." "You're right again," I said, standing. "We're not doing this. We're undoing it." I turned to the crowd. "Sorry to interrupt everyone. I know this isn't my party, but I'd just like a few minutes of your time. Especially those of you who've only heard one side of this story." Rachel's face went pale. She turned to her boyfriend, who looked deeply uncomfortable. Some of her coworkers were already pulling out their phones, not recording, but close. "Ready?" I pulled a folder from my jacket pocket. "This," I said, holding it up, "is a collection of statements, references, and documentation. Not rumors. Not deleted Facebook posts. Not group chat gossip. Facts." I handed it to Rachel's father, who took it hesitantly. "Inside you'll find letters from my former supervisor, clients, and community members. People who've known me for years. People who know what kind of man I am." I turned to the crowd. "You've heard I abandoned my family. That I couldn't handle fatherhood. That I ran off because I couldn't deal with being second best." I looked Rachel square in the eye. "But the truth is, I left because I was erased. Because I was treated like a placeholder. Because the woman I once loved used my stability as a stepping stone, then mocked me for not becoming something flashier." A few people shifted awkwardly. Rachel tried to speak, but I held up a hand. "Not done yet." I nodded toward Bella. "My kids were told not to speak to me. That I didn't care. That I had nothing to offer." Meanwhile, the man Rachel brought into their lives, without warning or consent, talks down to them and treats them like baggage. The boyfriend opened his mouth, but one sharp look from me shut it fast. And while Rachel hosts parties to start over, my son, who didn't even want to come tonight, is at my sister's house, already packing. Because he's tired of the lies, the manipulation, the rewriting of reality. Now Rachel looked genuinely rattled. Her eyes darted toward the house, like she wanted to disappear. I took a deep breath. "I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to win applause. I'm here because my kids deserve better. And because the truth deserves a voice." I stepped forward and placed a sealed envelope on the table beside the charcuterie board. Inside was the formal custody filing, along with a request for immediate mediation and a temporary parenting plan, giving me full residential custody until the hearing. It was legally tight, backed by months of documented neglect, emotional manipulation, and testimonies. Rachel stared at it like it was a live grenade. And then, quietly, I turned to Bella. "You want to come with me?" Her eyes welled up. She nodded. "I packed already," she whispered. I smiled. "Of course you did." We started to leave. Rachel tried one last time. Her voice cracked just a little. You're making me look bad. I paused. No, I said. You did that yourself. And then I walked away. Through the crowd of stunned faces and silent wine glasses. Past the man who thought he could fill my shoes. Past the woman who thought she could rewrite me out of her story. And I didn't look back. The custody hearing was swift. Liam testified, clear, direct, and brave. Bella did too, with a counselor present. Megan spoke. My lawyer was surgical. Rachel tried to spin things, but without control of the narrative, her story collapsed. The court granted me primary custody within weeks. She was given visitation, but only under review and after parenting classes. Her boyfriend? Didn't last. From what I heard, he bailed the second things got complicated. The shine of the new life wore off quickly when reality knocked. Her reputation took a hit too, not because I ruined it, but because her version of things no longer held water. People started seeing the cracks, the arrogance, the manipulation, the fake smiles that never reached her eyes. I didn't rub it in. I didn't gloat. I just rebuilt. My business doubled within a year. I hired 2 guys to help manage the workload. I bought a small fixer-upper on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, but with a yard big enough for Bella's garden projects and a shed Liam turned into a drum studio. The 3 of us, me, Liam, and Bella, we figured it out together. It wasn't always easy, but it was honest. It was real. And that first Father's Day after the custody ruling, they made me a trophy, real wood, laser engraved. It said, to the dad who never held us back, you carried us forward. I didn't cry when I read it, but I held it like it was made of gold, and I knew I'd never let go of myself again.